It is a great privilege to introduce to you tonight a very beautiful and precious child of God. This is a woman who is making history by the way she's changing the world. I first met this extraordinary woman when she was in middle school at Oakdale Christian. She was a vibrant, energetic, and eager student, a leader in her class, and already anxious to make a difference in this world. I was Pashon's social studies teacher, and her contributions to our discussions were insightful and meaningful at a very early age. Pashon moved on to Grand Rapids Christian High, and I became the principal of Kennewick Hills Middle School. Though our paths did not cross on a daily basis, Pashon and I stayed connected over the next 20 years, and it has been an incredible honor to watch her contributions for improving our world. Pashon graduated from Texas Southern University. She earned a degree in business marketing and played on the basketball team. In 2011, Pashon received her master's in urban planning from Wayne State University. Nelson Mandela said, "We choose our world." Pashon is choosing. She is the co-founder of Detroit Dirt, which is helping to change the carbon footprint of Detroit through revitalizing neighborhoods and making an impact on food systems locally. In 2012, Pashon launched Sustainable Integrations. It's located in the historic Corktown area of Detroit. She is working to combat environmental deterioration by learning, by educating, by leading, and by serving the public over sustainability issues. She has lobbied in Washington, D.C. for Sierra Club, National Wildlife Federation, and Repower America and Alliance for Climate Protection. She's been featured in Newsweek, Modern Farmer, just this week, Country Gardens, a Carhartt ad, her Ford Upside commercial, CBS Detroit, and Fox Detroit. She has also been featured in blogs with Blue Cross Blue Shield, Shinola, and General Motors, all companies that she has contracts with. When her Ford ad reached 1 million hits, it was named the #1 ad in the world. When you view the commercial in a few moments, you will see that same tenacity to improve our world that I saw in middle school. Pashon was named a fellow at MIT and has been invited to speak at Wake Forest Divinity, Yale Divinity, a Rethink conference in Napa, TEDx Detroit, and TEDx Baltimore. Newsweek called this precious woman one of the 13 most disruptive women you can count on. Disruptive in the we choose our world sense of the word. Pashon is a change agent. She shows the love that she was taught at home and school by taking action to improve our world. And so in the words we so value in our tradition, dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. I am incredibly proud to present to you Pashon Murray, Grand Rapids Christian graduate, child of God.
Why do I work so hard? For what? For this? For dirt? Other countries, they work. They stroll to the market and buy locally grown food. Locally. Why aren't we like that? Well, more and more of us are like that. Because we're crazy entrepreneurs trying to make the world better. Some people might think we're nuts. Whatever. Me? I collect food scraps from restaurants. Manure from zoos. Manure. Do you know why? To keep this stuff out of landfills and use it to make good, rich dirt. That's why. Yeah, look, it's pretty simple. You work hard, you believe that anything is possible, and you try to make the world better. You try. As for helping the city grow good, green, healthy vegetables, that's the upside of giving a damn. N'est-ce pas? Good evening, everyone. What an honor to be back in this community today. I've had an awesome, awesome day, and you know, what a privilege to be able to be a keynote the same night that Mr. Richard DeVos is being honored. That family has done so much for this community, and being here tonight and sharing the stage is such a privilege and an honor. And I just want to thank the community for extending the invitation for me to come back and share my story to Grand Rapids Christian. The students, I enjoyed my day today with all of them, and the alumni, and thank you, Lon and Mark, for keeping in touch with me and coming over to Detroit to visit. Before I get started, I just want to give a special thanks to my parents for being tremendous role models in the household. Having a father that, you know, had a maintenance company that was involved with landscaping and waste removal, and that has a lot to do with what I'm involved in. And having a mother who was my rock, who was very adamant about me being in the Christian schools, and she worked hard to keep me focused. And I'm just very grateful for my family and friends who are here today. Wow, there's so much to say about Grand Rapids. I brag about the people in this community, the impact that this community had on my life, the Christian school systems. You know, I'd like to start off just talking a little bit about who I am, and then we can go into the business model and why I created Detroit Dirt. When I attended Oakdale Christian School, it was very interesting because, like Ruth said, I'm very proud to have had her as a teacher and an influence in my life. We're just great friends. But when I was attending Oakdale Christian, that school really had something to do with me understanding about delegating and friendship and bringing people together. And it was such a unique school to me, and to this day, when I'm traveling around the world, I think about Oakdale Christian as well as Christian High. But Oakdale was the start. The teachers that were there, how much they cared about students and the diversity, where that school was located. All of those families that took the time to allow me to eat dinner with them, to hang out with them, going to churches, soccer. Ruth was my soccer coach. We went undefeated, by the way, when I was playing soccer for her. And, you know, just playing basketball and being in that school system, you know, had a lot to do with when I go into these impoverished communities, I take Oakdale Christian with me. I take Grand Rapids Christian. I take all of my experiences in this community with me everywhere that I go. It's very interesting because, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, as I'm out here on the road, I grew up going south as well with my parents to Mississippi, going to the farm down south in Mississippi and going to the landfills with my dad. I never thought that the farm, going to the landfills, hanging out with him while he was snow plowing, I never thought that all of those experiences would have something to do with who I am today. I appreciated their hard work and the love that they demonstrated in the household, but I didn't know that it would have something to do with me today. So with sports, family, friendship, a great community like Grand Rapids led me to thinking about how I could impact the world. I was discussing with Marlon Fine and with Ruth about 2003 was a pivotal moment for me because I'd come back from undergrad from Texas Southern, and this was Grand Rapids, believe it or not, in comparison to other communities that I've been in, sustainability became a key factor in how they were going to revitalize, how this community was going to build more efficiently. And John Doherty invited me to a meeting, and there were construction companies there, and they were talking about sustainability, and I'm like, okay, I want to learn about what this sustainability is. And I'll never forget, I believe it was, I remember Rockford Construction being there, Pioneer. I remember Marlon being there. His son Josh Fine and I grew up together. But there were some key businessmen and companies in that room talking about building efficiently. Now, in my mind, as I attended a few of those meetings, I thought, oh, wow. You know, here I was thinking as a young child that landfills really never made sense to me, and now I'm getting the chance to experience a group of people who are talking about how they're going to make Grand Rapids better, how they were going to build more efficiently, how they were going to do it. And from the architects to the designers, that was a pivotal moment in my life because I took what I had learned from my dad and I said, you know what? I want to recycle materials. That was at that time, and I had the opportunity to work on a project with the downtown YMCA as a contractor managing the waste materials and looking at that waste stream and understanding. And that was kind of the segue for me, coupled with my experiences as a child. I wanted to be back in Michigan, but I felt like Grand Rapids had a lot of support. There were a lot of people, they got it here. This community, it was on its way. I mean, the plans to build more efficiently, it made sense. But growing up as a child, going to Chicago, going to Detroit, I always wondered why some of those communities still looked the same. They were devastated. Abandoned buildings, you know, vacant properties. Some of the areas in Detroit remain the same since the '67 riots. And I thought, you know what? There are great places in Detroit. There are gems that are there that never get talked about. The museum districts in certain neighborhoods, they never talk about those areas. But the vacant properties, the failing school systems, you know, the automotive industry failing. How could I, as a person, make a contribution, but getting people in that community to believe in me? Well, guess what? The experiences that I had in Grand Rapids, growing up here, the experiences I had in Texas, I wanted to take that knowledge and what I had learned and integrate that into the city of Detroit. Now, I don't take credit at all for what I'm about to talk to you about, because this model came through experiences, visions that I had, a lot of prayer, and a lot of hard work. And I'm still working. I'm still knocking on corporations' doors to get them to look at how they need to change their mindset around sustainable practices, because the waste stream can do a lot of things, so many things. After lobbying from probably 2007, about 2008, I had some opportunities to do some consulting for universities and kind of getting them to understand the waste streams, some of the projects that they were interested in through, you know, the government had funding for green jobs training, and I still don't know what a green job is between you and me, because I think a green job could be a lot of different things, but green job training, and then there's a lot of universities who are interested, and they are creating sustainable programs all over the country. But after consulting, working with universities, getting an opportunity to bid on contracts, the Lord started whispering to me, literally, because being in a city like Detroit, I left Grand Rapids in 2005, around that time, and officially moved to Detroit. And when I moved to Detroit, all of the things that I saw growing up, I thought, you know what? Let me keep praying, let me keep searching, let me figure out what am I going to do. So the consulting opportunities came, contracting came, and around 2009, the urban farming movement began. We started having meetings in the community, the grassroots, the folks who were really involved in grassroots, and we said, you know what? There's impoverished people in the community. There are people who are looking for opportunities to help rebuild Detroit. There's vacant land here. There's so many issues going on. The automotive industry, they want to recover. But through prayer, through seeking God and asking for wisdom and knowledge, it appeared to me that when that urban farming movement took off and everybody who was in the grassroots effort of getting that off the ground, they didn't have the resources that they needed. So they thought they didn't have the resources that they needed because there were so many talented people in Detroit, because they built cars, there were architects, there were builders. I mean, there were so many people that had gifts and talents, but I wanted to kind of create a resurgence and get people to think differently around sustainable practices. So along the way, when that movement kicked off, the urban farming movement kicked off, they were dealing with issues with soil. There was a lot of contaminated soil throughout the city, as well as a lot of youth in the Detroit public schools did not have access to healthy food. And there were a lot of communities where those corner stores, and there was only a few grocery stores here and there, but there's a lot of processed foods in the community, a lot of sugar, and we're talking about communities that were dealing with diabetes, high cholesterol, you name it. So as I began to pray and search and ask God to give me the wisdom and knowledge to have the insight on how to help people and help rebuild a community, I started interviewing some of the urban farmers. I started talking to people. I was listening, to some of the politicians in the area. General Motors, Ford, some of the major corporations, they started talking about a zero-waste, landfill-free policy. And I was thinking at the time, okay, we got all these issues. The automotive industry is talking about a zero-waste, landfill-free policy. What exactly does that mean? So I started attending meetings, and I asked a couple of people at Ford, a couple of folks at General Motors, would they be willing to mentor me, because they were specializing in waste reduction. So a gentleman by the name of John Bradburn started inviting me to meetings, just like some of the meetings that I attended here in Grand Rapids with John Doherty and Associated Builders Contractors. This time, it was with the automotive industry in Detroit. And they started telling me about some ideas that they had about waste. And I said, well, it seems like to me we have all this talent and different people who have, gifts and whatnot, and the city's still struggling. Why don't we look at how we can take some of this waste and repurpose and reuse it to help create companies and, maybe take some of the food from the waste stream and feed some of the homeless? And so I started getting invited to more and more meetings, which led to the creation of Detroit Dirt. Detroit Dirt is a model that deals with three things that can impact a community: socially, economically, and environmentally. I introduced the concept and the model to some of the folks in the automotive industry, and I said, give me a chance to analyze your waste stream, and let's figure out what we're going to do with it. They were already pushing that policy to begin with. It made sense. We ran a pilot. The pilot started with the Chevy Volt plant, and we took a year, and we basically looked at that waste stream. Then I went behind the scenes of a Bon Jovi concert at Ford Field because I wanted to see how much waste they were creating within the stadium. So I started asking questions about, I know there's insurance issues around, food, but what if we fed some of the homeless shelters with some of this food that's being wasted? I mean, it's so much. I was able to analyze and break that waste stream down, and I started seeing what I could use to compost for the urban farming movement, but also what food could be used to feed the homeless. And then, over the last 3 or 4 years, the waste stream, not only were companies being developed from the waste in the automotive industry and within that city, we were all working together to try to figure out how we could help one another. So with the social aspect of it, it was like, okay, great. Here's a waste stream. We're all figuring out what we need to do. The economics behind it was really simple for me at the time. It wasn't convincing the folks at GM and other companies, but I said, listen, I can help save you money in your triple bottom line. They really wanted to listen then when I said I could help save them money. I said, listen, if you start diverting that waste to me, I'm going to show you how you can save money. Number one, we're going to get your kitchens and cafeterias and everybody involved with food to start working a lot more efficiently, and we're going to get them to look at what they're wasting and why they're wasting it. So I asked GM, after that pilot at the Chevy Volt plant, would they start giving me all of their organic waste? Then I approached the Detroit Zoological Society, and I said, your herbivore manure, I need that from you. And they said, you want our herbivore manure? I said, yeah, I need it. They said, well, why do you want it? So they came out and met with me, and I said, listen, what I'm trying to do is show these different corporations how we can start diverting waste from the landfills. So I got General Motors on board, I got the Detroit Zoological Society on board, and we began to take that waste stream, and I started processing that waste from GM, local restaurants, breweries, coffee shops. And what was so unique about, the creation of Detroit Dirt was people would come out to that site, that 2.5-acre site, and go, this is unbelievable. Like, you're really doing what you say you're doing. And then we were able to get corporations to start getting the youth involved. And then we started creating gardens and places that, it looked like a war. Some of those places looked like a war zone. You had burned down buildings, houses that were dilapidated. We were taking vacant properties and we started growing food. One interesting story is, I was on Fox News yesterday, and they reported that 36,000 pounds of food from the headquarters of General Motors had been recycled through our company, Detroit Dirt, which was monumental for me yesterday because the message was getting out there. People are starting to see what we can do better for that community. But if you could just see some of the places in Detroit where General Motors, we did, 350 garden beds in Southwest Detroit in one area, and then we took a park because Dan Gilbert was building some parking structure, and I got a call like at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know why some people think I'm Superwoman or something, but they're like, Pashon, we need you to help us remove some trees. I'm like, I'm not in the business of removing trees, but they said, no, we want you to save them. Do you know where they can go? And So they said, we need some compost and we need you to move these trees. So me and a crew, we got together, we moved those trees and we planted them in compost and we were able to save them. And then that led to other people in the community wanting to create another park down the street. General Motors, we took 350 crates that were used as shipping crates to a Korean supplier, and we repurposed them and reused them in a space with Southwest Detroit Environmental Visions and another company, Ideal Group. That turned into other urban farmers wanting to approach General Motors to use crates or, some of those shipping parts and crates that were used, they wanted to start using them. So when we think about the social, economical, and environmental impact of this, it's huge. MIT approached me during, right after the commercial. They didn't really even know about the commercial because a couple of guys from the media lab they came out to see how they could help Detroit. And they selected 10 companies that they wanted to approach and talk to. And recently, when we were all meeting out in Cambridge, they were like, Pashon, man, you're going to be responsible for a movement, not just in Detroit, not just in this country, but in the world. And we started talking, we were discussing the bacteria in the soils. I said, if you guys want me to become a fellow, I need you to come into Detroit. I need you to take a fraction of the intelligence and brilliance that I see in this lab to the Detroit public school systems. If you guys are able to convince me that I should come on board, I need you to come to Detroit. Those conversations turned into research and development. We started talking about the biology and the science behind soil, how the complexities of the bacteria work together. How do we expedite the process of decomposition? So here you have someone who grew up in a community like this, like Grand Rapids, learning about sustainability, being educated in the Christian school systems, just like a whole lot of other people, but listening to the message that God was giving me. Pashon, you want to help? You got to go out here, find the people in the grassroots, figure out how to create jobs, get people to see what it is that I'm showing you. And so when that vision came to me, I had to do something about it. I wanted to be responsible. I wanted to be a servant leader. That's what I was taught in this community. And I tell people all the time, everywhere that I go, I'm not going to be ashamed of my faith and my beliefs. I don't wear it on my shoulders or on my chest, but it's spiritual what I do. There's no way that some little black girl from Grand Rapids is sitting with the chairmen of some of these major corporations, trying to figure out solutions on how to feed people amongst, taking the waste stream and repurposing and reusing it. But this community has a lot of responsibility. And you all, whether it was the construction companies and John Doherty inviting me, Oakdale Christian, Grand Rapids Christian, I'm amazed. I mean, this school is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It didn't quite look like this when I was attending here, but it's amazing to see how Grand Rapids has even evolved because of sustainability and how it impacts. But that model became my mission, which was a vision from God to have a closed-loop system, a model that could be replicated anywhere in the world. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I've always wanted to do as a child, is help people, help communities. And because a few of us in Detroit decided to get together in the grassroots movement and align with corporations, we were able to come up with some solutions. And it's amazing what's going on in Detroit right now. They were behind Grand Rapids. People from over in Detroit, I tell them to come and visit Grand Rapids, and a lot of my friends, they come back and they're like, wow, I see what you're saying, about building more efficiently and taking care of the environment and being responsible. So Detroit Dirt has become my life. You know, I'm committed to it. I've had a lot of opportunities. I'm getting calls from people all over the world. That commercial had a million hits within 5 days. That told me that there are a lot of change agents. There are a lot of people who believe in God out here. There are a lot of people who want to make a difference. And the letters, the emails, everything that I received from teachers, tons of teachers. I stayed up, my roommate and I, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, amazed at the feedback from people from all around the world, because Ford decided to put their name behind me on a message that was 60 seconds, and it was simple. It's about being responsible. Of course, the media took it a little bit different because it was a rebuttal or an answer for the Cadillac ELR commercial that talked about material and stuff. But we wanted to be about belief, faith, change, making a difference. Just to give you a quick overview before I conclude, just so you know, because it's about us in this ecosystem. You know, I was talking recently to Martha Stewart's management team, and it's interesting because I got invited to a private dinner, and I had no idea really who was all going to be there. I mean, they mentioned it, but they said, Pashon, you're one of the companies that we selected to attend this meeting. And so after the meeting, you know, it was like a little afterglow type, you know, networking, and some of Martha Stewart's management, they said, you know what, Pashon, we want to help you. And I said, man, thank God, I'm grateful. I said, because they started talking to me about, it was almost like they knew my passion, but they knew the struggles. And I said, I'm going to be so grateful if you guys come on board and help me, because I'm still struggling. I'm still knocking on the doors of these corporations. But they said, let us help you. Let us figure out what we need to do. That phone call, you know, turned into some other phone calls where other people were calling. And MIT recently said, you know, Pashon, what is it? What is it that you need? I said, I need help. I need more equipment. But most importantly, I'm just glad that most of you guys who are calling me, you get it. You know, you want to help change the community. So getting calls from celebrities. I was with Usher's foundation the other day at Ford, and the president of one of his foundations, we talked about, you know, bringing people together, taking, you know, some of the experiences I've had and others and introducing it to the youth. You know, recently Ted asked me to speak at the Brooklyn Museum in November, and I said yes. I always say yes when it comes to the youth, because they're the next generation. That's what it's about. Everything that I do, I'm willing to die for this cause. I'm doing it for the next generation, because I know they're the ones who are going to be running these companies. They're the ones that are going to take innovation, you know, and make the best out of it. But I have to go out here and do my job. So at the end of the day, I want to leave you with this. The model that was created, I thought about my ancestors who fought and everything that they did, and I'm standing on their shoulders. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my parents working hard. You know, I value this Christian education that was given to me. I go and I share that with public school students. I talk to them all the time, inspiring them, trying to get them to see that education is where it is. So I'm very grateful for you guys coming out to hear my story, but more importantly, for you knowing how much I value all of you that have impacted my life. All of my teachers, you know, I talked to a few of them earlier, talked to some of them, you know, today when I was here, and I remember the things that they did. I remember the impact. I remember some of the lessons in religion class. That has a lot to do with who I am, and I will never forget that. I will always carry Grand Rapids in my heart. You know, I get a little emotional too when it comes to Grand Rapids, because when I've talked to certain people in Detroit, you know, I wanted to be that bridge. I wanted to gap the void between East and West, you know, because it's like night and day. And I said, you know what, I'm a product of Grand Rapids. Yeah, I was born and raised there, but I still care about the city of Detroit. I want to help. And I'm so grateful that that community and that city gave me the opportunity to take the foundational principles and the values and everything that I learned here and integrate it into their community. So we're all connected to the dirt. We're all connected to the soil. And if I can help a community divert waste and put a dollar value on that, and then we repurpose and reuse it and put it back into the community, all of us can do that. And I always say, all the time, we are all connected to the dirt. We're all connected to the soil. We all are in this ecosystem together. And I was talking at another conference with some folks who encountered, you know, storms, and we had conversations about climate change and, you know, when Hurricane Katrina hit. And I said, you know what, when disasters come, a lot of innovation happens. Detroit needed to recover. It was like a disaster had been there. And the innovation and everything that came from that and the talents and the resurgence was beautiful. It was spiritual. You know, God really is at work out here in this world. Some of us just have to listen, and some of us have to be willing to sacrifice and come together with like-minded people. That's what we have to do. But for me, I'm grateful. I was honored to be invited to come back to this community. We've had some great examples of people in this community who have showed that they were servant leaders, and they led me. I wanted to become a servant leader, and so now I ask you to continue to pray for me while I'm out here traveling, whether it's hanging out with Martha Stewart or, you know, the fifth grader who wants to know what can they do to change the world. I need your prayers and I need your support. But more importantly, when you think about all of the things that are going on out here in this world, you know, remember something as simple as the waste stream in Detroit helped revitalize and help change.